What's going on, fellas? Welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to our normal schedule. Obviously, I'm officially back from vacation. We're back in the studio, if you want to call it that. And yeah, so welcome back. Let me just get up. Let me just get set up quickly. We have a couple of things to talk about since the last time we've spoke. Let me see if this is gonna work. I apologize. I should have figured this out before. Let's see if this is working. Yep, there we go. That should be good. Just set the goal quickly. All right, yeah. Let some of you boys get in the stream anyway. All right, it's not working. Is it gonna work now? No? All right, whatever. But anyways, welcome to the stream, fellas. So since the last time we talked, there's been a couple things that have came out. Yesterday, the UFC said they were going to go live later on in the day, talking about some announcements that they were going to make, and here's what we have. So the first thing that we had here is JDM versus Islam Makhachev is official. We kind of knew about this. This was one complaint I had about some of these live streams that Dana White has done as of late, because it seems like we kind of already know all the information before he announces it. But he made some of these things official. We have JDM versus Islam Makhachev in New York at MSG for that fight night, or sorry, not fight night, for that pay-per-view card. So that's going to be a really good fight. Of course, we really wanted to see Islam versus Ilya, but still, JDM versus Islam is a great fight. And I do think if Islam wins this fight and Ilya wins his next fight, we could still see Islam versus Ilya. So that's the first news that we had. The next one that we had is we have Shevchenko versus Zhang, Weili Zhang. So that's, it is considered to be a super fight for the women's division, but in my opinion, I don't think it, I don't think it's that exciting, but okay, it's another addition to that card, so that's something to think about. And the other fight that they did announce that we kind of heard some rumblings, but it wasn't as apparent as some of the other fights, was Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates. Now, that fight is a really good one. I think it was really good matchmaking on the part of the UFC, putting that fight together. But those are the three fights we have announced thus far for UFC 322, which I mentioned before is in New York. So pretty good card thus far for that card. Usually New York cards tend to be pretty good. And here are also some additions to the UFC 321 card. We have our co-main event. Mackenzie Dern fighting in a title fight is kind of crazy, but she's fighting for the vacant title. And we also have Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista. Now, we thought that Umar versus Batista was going to happen for UFC Vancouver in Canada, but it seems like the UFC went in a different direction. And because of that, now we have Nurmagomedov and Batista being on the main card of this UFC 321 card, which I do believe is in Abu Dhabi. So, some decent additions, I guess I would say, to that card, UFC 321, which already the main event of that is Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. So just adding some more fights to that card. But yeah, that's kind of all the announcements we got. We were hoping to get some announcements for Ilia Topuria, maybe his next fight. We were hoping to get some other announcements as well, but it turned out that it was just kind of things that we already knew. And as I said before, that kind of is one of my complaints about some of these Dana White live streams where they, when he like breaks news, we kind of already know about all these things, which is unfortunate, but what are you going to do? But yeah, that's kind of the whole news that we got from this from yesterday, I should say. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. What's up, white boy? Let's go. Yeah, dude, that was so bad. That was so ridiculously bad, man. The whole Raja Jackson whole thing. It was literally like 25 unanswered shots or however many. Every time I watch it, it's like a different number, or every time I hear someone talk about it, it's a different number. Regardless of how many unanswered shots it was, it was just ridiculous. It was a terrible situation. I know some people are trying to cover for him, which is kind of weird in my opinion. Maybe it's because they have personal relationships with his father or whatever, but it's pretty bad. Let's just call it spade a spade. It was a really bad situation. Obviously, it shouldn't have happened. I don't know why no one else stopped it. But yeah, I guess that's just what happened. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Great fights. Yeah, I agree. They are great fights. I guess my only criticism is we kind of knew about these fights beforehand, so there wasn't that wow factor. But yeah, in terms of the JDM versus Islam fight, if we never heard about Islam versus Ilya, people would be super, super hyped about this one. And I think people still are hyped about it. So that's obviously an amazing fight, a legitimate super fight, and a great main fight, a main event for the New York card. And also Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates is a great fight as well. Even Umar versus Batista, I think, is a really good fight. So definitely some good fight announcements there. And I think we're in store for a pretty good rest of the year. I talked about this before. Now it's kind of official with some of these fight editions, but I thought going into the fall we'd probably have a pretty good slate that the UFC was going to put out, and yeah, we're kind of seeing that as of this point, with some of these fight announcements as well as some of the other fights that were already announced previous. So yeah, pretty good stuff. In his defense, he was it is true. I mean, I know you're joking about it, but like there actually are a lot of people that say that as a defense for Raja, that the whole beer can was smashed over his head, so it was justified. He didn't start it or whatever. It's fucking insane. But yeah, a lot of people are actually saying that with the whole beer can thing, and obviously, I guess he shouldn't have done it with the whole beer can thing, but he thought, Raja was a worker. And even after he apologized and it seemed like they were all good. So I don't know. It's just like a weird situation, pretty bad situation. But yeah, I don't know. Not great. Not great. UFC people wanted to see Islam versus Hamzat. Yeah, that would honestly be a great fight. I would love to see it. I would assume Hamzat would win. He's just a lot bigger, and his wrestling is elite. Not saying that Islam's isn't. Islam's is elite as well. And I guess that's kind of the draw of that fight. Both these guys have insane grappling and wrestling specifically. I just think Hamzat would probably just be a little bit too big for Islam at that point. But yeah, if we ever could theoretically get that down the line, that would be an amazing fight. But I think it's very unlikely. I know they already asked Islam about that, and I think he essentially just said no. But yeah, it would be cool if we could ever get it down the line. But yeah. By the way, I mean, I haven't streamed in a little bit. I've streamed a couple times since the whole Hamzat DDP fight. But what do you guys think of that fight? I personally was not very happy with it. I know it was obviously a very dominating performance from Hamzat. But at the end of the day, I thought maybe he could have done a little bit more, maybe advance in position, maybe look for more ground and pound shots, look for the finish a little bit more, I would say. I mean, he's done that throughout his whole career. And I know on one hand, DDP needed to stop takedowns. I fully agree with that. But at the same time, I wish Hamzat would have looked for it a little bit more. But what do you guys think of that fight? They were mad because there was no Islam versus man, yeah. I mean, it's not a super likely fight to happen, even before Ilya said, or not Ilya, before Islam said he didn't want to fight Hamzat. But it would be cool theoretically if it happened. But what are you gonna do? I saw a big and I said, oh man, let's go, bro. Always adding color to the live streams. I appreciate you. Oh man. The fight was boring because wrestling and hugging people was boring to watch, but it's part of the UFC. Yeah, I agree. Listen, like there's two parts to the fight. The one part is, yeah, you would like to see Hamzat go for the finish a little bit more. I mean, as I said, he's done so in every single one of his fights throughout his whole UFC career. But it seemed like in this one, maybe because it was a 5-round fight, maybe because of other reasons, or maybe because DDP was just doing a great job at stopping Hamzat from advancing in position, even though he got the crucifix like a million times. But on one hand, it was boring. You would like to see Hamzat go for it a little bit more. But on the other hand, yeah, I mean, if you don't like that sort of style, you got to do something to stop it. DDP's takedown defense was abysmal. I said going into the fight on a lot of these live streams, as well as on my prediction video, I thought Dricus would win via a 3rd, 4th, or 5th round TKO, or maybe a decision. But something that I said going into the fight was I thought that Hamzat would find a takedown in round 1. I thought he would probably have a 10-8 round in the first round. But as the fight progressed, I thought Hamzat would gas out a little bit and DDP would start to be able to stop takedowns. But that just never happened. DDP was never able to stop a takedown, not in round 1, not in round 5, which is something I didn't expect to see. So, yeah, I mean, obviously part of the blame definitely does go towards DDP. You got to have better takedown defense than that. I mean, it was abysmal. It was just really bad, and especially going into a fight against Hamzat, who's known for his grappling and He's probably the best wrestler in the UFC. It's pretty crazy. So there's kind of two sides to the coin. But overall, it turned out to be a boring fight, kind of on the part of both guys. I think sometime about TV mentions. I agree with this. I do agree with this part. You are definitely right on that. There was a couple times where Hamzat tried to advance in position and go for the submissions. There's a couple times. Just DDP is great at his submission defense. I agree with that. But at the same time, I do think there were some opportunities for Hamzat to land some more ground and pound shots. He got into the crucifix like every single round. It seemed like pretty easily as well. But from that position, it was pretty clear that in terms of him advancing to a submission, it just wasn't really there. But also at the same time, like outside of the crucifix, it did feel like because Hamzat was had such an advantage in terms of the wrestling, he probably would have been able to advance in position and land some more ground and pound shots. So yes, with the submission defense, I do agree with you. DDP showed a really good ability to stop submissions, but at the same time, because Hamzat was such a dominant grappler and so much better of a wrestler than DDP, you would have liked to see him advance in position, maybe get into full mount or situations like that where he can land big ground and pound shots. So I guess that's really my criticism there. And if he does, land a bunch of big ground and pound shots, that does leave openings for potential submissions. So I guess that's what I'll say about that. What do you think of the UFC killing all the other promotions? I mean, it's part of the game. I mean, the UFC is honestly doing a great job at just putting together a pretty good product. I know a lot of people, including myself, have a lot of problems with the UFC. I even have a series on my channel, complaining series, where I just complain about a bunch of different things about the UFC. But overall, when you look at them as a product, they do a great job at a lot of things. Obviously, they have essentially all the talent in MMA on the roster, so that helps significantly. But outside of that, their production is really good. Their matchmaking is pretty good, although sometimes we have some criticisms. For the most part, it is really good. So there's a lot of things that the UFC does very, very well, which is a huge reason for why they were able to get to the top. Obviously, the UFC was not always the brand name in MMA. They kind of created the sport in a way. And they've done so by doing a great job at, as I said, getting a lot of talent, production, matchmaking, and even earlier on, just promoting some of these fighters. So it's just a part of the game, I guess. And there's positives and negatives to it, but it's just what it is. I also think the Hamzat had more. Yeah, that's true. That actually, honestly, I'm not even joking. That could be a part of it. That could be a part of it. Yeah, that whole situation is very odd, but yeah, Hamzat is kind of just fighting for his family, I guess, because I believe they're still there. His family is, so his hands are kind of tied there, and I think Hamzat knew DP on the family. Yeah. You're right. You're probably right. I would agree with you. And also, I think another part of it was he kind of was trying to keep it as safe as possible because he was worried about himself gassing out. I talked about it a couple times going into it that I thought he would gas out. Now, it turned out that he didn't, and he was able to fight 5 rounds, and he didn't really look all that tired. But in my opinion, that was more so because he kept it safe and because DDP had no takedown defense at all, or really no resistance at all. But in that 5th round, when they were on the feet for that little sequence, DDP actually landed some good shots, and he was able to get full mount on Hamzat at the end, which is hilarious. It's kind of like a DDP sequence there. So yeah, I agree. He probably was just playing it safe, trying to get the victory. And if it was boring, whatever, but I think he was probably a little worried about him on the feet as well as his cardio. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Yep, I completely agree. Actually, I put a prediction video out about this fight already. I do think JDM is going to win the fight. He has shown a pretty good ability to stop takedowns from Bilal Muhammad, and obviously Islam's a better grappler and better wrestler than Bilal is, but still, it is a good sign to see that JDM was able to stop takedowns. And he kind of has a style, with a high guard but a low high guard, where if somebody shoots in for takedowns, we've seen this a bunch of times in the Bilal fight as well as others, he kind of does a good job at stopping takedowns that way by utilizing the high guard. Usually, when strikers use a high guard, it becomes very easy for wrestlers to go under that and take them down. But JDM kind of does it in a different way. Obviously, as you said, his footwork his footwork is really, really good. His boxing is really good, really crispy. And I think if JDM and Islam are stuck together on the feet, JDM is going to have a significant advantage. Although a lot of people like to say Islam's a really good striker, very underrated striker, which he is. He definitely had success against a lot of other guys. I just think JDM is a different level of striker than some of those, than Islam, I should say, as well as the fact that he has shown pretty good takedown defense. And he's shown a good ability to be defensively sound with the high guard while at the same time showing pretty good takedown defense. So going into the fight, my prediction is JDM is going to win, but I guess we'll see what happens. Do you think that Asmo Tom like a little bit? Yeah, I do. You're not a fan of Tom Aspinall, Rick? He taps so fast. How's overrated? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there definitely are some issues with Tom Aspinall. I will admit. On the feet, he kind of does leave his chin up in the air a little bit more than you would like to see. But at this point, I think at the heavyweight division, he's better than everybody else. That's not saying that much. I mean, the heavyweight division is really not good at all. But when you look at a lot of these guys, you know, he's just better than everybody else. He's better than Cyril Gane. I think he submits him. He already beat Volkov. He already beat Pavlovich. He already beat Blades. I think he would beat Jalton Almeida. He would definitely beat Waldo. He already beat Tybura, Spivak, Derek Lewis. He'd probably beat Ty. He would definitely beat Gaziev, McParkin, Taliesin Teixeira. Like, there's nobody here that I think is a legitimate contender to Tom Aspinall. So I think he'll be a champ for a while. I've talked about this before. It's very uncommon for the heavyweight division, but I think there's a real chance that Tom Aspinall could get a bunch of title defenses, you know, as the years do progress, which is, as I said, uncommon for the heavyweight division just because, you know, these guys are big and they hit hard. But I think Tom will probably be a champ for a while just because he's so much better than everybody else. Aspinall and Blades are 1-1. Yeah, they are. But in the first fight, Tom's knee just blew out. But on the Blades front, I've talked about this a lot. You know, I like Blades. I think Blades is a really good fighter. I actually think Curtis Blades is a guy who could potentially beat Aspinall. It's just the problem is IQ. His striking is good. He's really fast. He hits hard. His wrestling is very good. I think he does a lot of good things out there. But I just think when he goes up against guys like that are really good, that are the elite fighters of the division, he kind of just, you know, makes a stupid mistake and gets knocked out or gets finished in some way. So I think if he fought Tom Aspinall again, I think he'd probably lose. But at the same time, I've been talking about Blades a lot. I think Blades is actually a really good fighter. He does a lot of things really well. Just his IQ, I think. His fight IQ isn't all there. Blades been fair and square in the first fight. All right. They were throwing that pinball. Fucking hell. Yeah. Definitely are. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's kind of like a two-way. By the way, welcome to the stream, brother. It's kind of a two-way street, though, because like for Patchy and for Patricio, you know, they are getting older, so you want to see these guys fight some of these higher level competition. And if they beat them, then you can fast track them to a title shot. But if they lose, you know, I guess, you know, it's kind of what we've been seeing. But listen, they're getting older. The only reason they signed with the UFC, the only reason the UFC brought them into the UFC is to see if they are UFC level and to see if they are elite UFC level. So I kind of get why the UFC is throwing these guys to the wolves quickly. But at the same time, a lot of these Bellator/PFL guys are just not, you know, being able to have success because of it. So, yeah. What do we got here? No Blades costume. Did he? All right. I don't really think so, but it's all good. It's all good. Only Almeida can beat Aspinall. Almeida probably is one of those guys that I would say maybe could beat him. I think Tom probably still beats him. But the thing about Almeida is he is actually like an elite grappler. And if he could find a takedown on Tom, it could be trouble for Tom. I mean, if you look back at Almeida's fight versus Curtis Blades is also a good grappler. It was almost comical to watch, but in that first round of that fight, Almeida was literally tossing Curtis around. It was hilarious, actually. But it kind of just shows how freakishly strong Almeida is, and once he is on the ground, he has shown to be a pretty good grappler as well. Really good jiu-jitsu. The Derek Lewis fight was kind of an outlier, but for the most part, Almeida has shown really good jiu-jitsu on the ground. So Almeida does leave some issues for Tom Aspinall. And I would probably agree with you. I think out of all the guys at the heavyweight division, he probably has the best chance. But at the same time, I just think Tom will be able to stop takedowns. And if he is forced to be on the feet against Almeida, Tom just has such a significant advantage there. Almeida is fast, but he's not really a great striker, to say the least. And on the feet, I just think Tom would eventually land a big shot and finish Jonathan Almeida. That's kind of how I see that fight playing out. But yeah, he's a really good fighter. Yeah, he is. I have been hearing a lot about him as well. As well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he looks. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see how he looks in the UFC. But yeah, I mean, in terms of news, that's kind of all we got from the Dana White, not Contender Series, but the Dana White announcement the other day. So good fights overall. And yeah, I mean, someone just pointed this out. At the end of the year, we have a lot of good cards. UFC 320, UFC 321, and UFC 322 all appear to be really fun on paper. So hopefully they all deliver and they all look pretty good. But yeah, that's kind of what we have from the announcements. Now, this weekend, or tomorrow, I should say, we don't have any fights or anything like that. So that's unfortunate. But next weekend, we do have a really good card. So first, we have the Dana White Contender Series on Tuesdays, which I will be doing a live stream for. As I said, I'm back from vacation. I'll be back to my normal schedule essentially every day during the week, 8 p.m. Eastern time, as well as Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So for this Tuesday coming up, we will be doing a Dana White Contender Series watch along once again. So if you guys are interested, definitely join in on that one. And then on Saturday of next week, we do have UFC Paris, which should be fun, with Caio Borralho, Imavov, BSD versus Rufi, and some other good fights on the card as well. As I said, Paris cards are usually good, usually a really good crowd. So I'm excited for that card. And we're kind of set for the rest of the year, to be honest. And then going into next year, obviously we have the Paramount deal. So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of good fights to begin the year as well. So a lot of things to be excited about as a UFC fan. For sure. Losing in the Octagon champion, 16-1 is only losses. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Octagon is actually a pretty good organization. A lot of really good fighters have came out of there. So to see that, yeah, it's definitely pretty good. I mean, I can't say I personally haven't watched too many of his fights or any of his fights at all, I should say. So I definitely need to do a little bit more research on him. But I've been hearing a lot of really good things. And yeah, him versus Pitbull. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah. So yeah, I think I saw the betting lines have Pitbull as a pretty significant underdog going into this one. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But that fight is for which card? It's coming up, right? Okay, yeah, it's actually on the Paris card. That's what I thought. So that's a really good addition to the card. And yeah, I mean, going into it, I thought initially probably only the main and co-main were going to be really good fights, and then the rest of the card were going to be just okay. But it seems like they did actually add some really good fights to this card. And there's a lot of fights on this card as well. So UFC Paris is I think probably going to be pretty good. And then after Paris, we have UFC Noche, which is kind of unfortunate because the card kind of sucks, if we're being honest. And even the Rosas fight versus Rob Font is off, unfortunately. So kind of makes the card even worse. But the main event's going to be really fun. And later on in the day, we will have the Canelo fight versus Crawford, which I don't know how many of you guys watch boxing, but I personally am a little bit of a casual when it comes to boxing, but I will be watching that. So that's kind of the silver lining, I guess, to the card. But hopefully it overplays from what we think. Yes, it's on the Paris card because okay. Let's go. That's nearby Paris. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited. Whenever there's new prospects to the UFC, it's always a good thing. I talked about this a lot. We really need new prospects to the heavyweight division. That's what we desperately need. But in general, when you can add, really highly touted prospects to any of these weight classes, it's always a good thing to see. And if you can get more talent to these divisions, it just helps the UFC and it just helps the product overall. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully he looks pretty good, and we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, after the Noche card, we have the UFC Perth card with Olberg and Dominic Reyes. I know Dominic Reyes is kind of running hot right now, and maybe a lot of people think that Carlos Olberg will eventually catch Dominic. I kind of think this is not a bad matchup for Dom. And if Dom beats Carlos Olberg, I talked about this a lot before, but I think he'll probably get a title shot in his next fight after that. Which is kind of crazy considering where he was after fighting John Jones, losing that fight on the scorecards and getting knocked out a bunch of times to now potentially being one fight away from a title. It's pretty crazy. But I'm excited about that fight, that main event. And I mean, whoever wins that fight is going to get a title shot in their next fight. But I think stylistically, it's probably not a bad matchup for Dominic Reyes. And outside of that, kind of have some of the other cards I already touched upon before. UFC 320, Pereira, Ankalaev, Merab versus Corey. UFC Fight Night in Brazil, Charles Oliveira, Fiziev. That Brazil card is looking really good, actually. And then you have the RDR card. This is the Canada card, I believe. RDR versus Fluffy Hernandez. Then you have UFC 321, which is also something we talked about before with Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. And then for UFC 322, as we just talked about, JDM versus Islam and Shevchenko and Weili. So some really good fights stand out the year. And December, I'm assuming it's probably going to be Joshua Van and Pantoja as a co-main event. We'll see what the main event is. Maybe we can get Ilia Topuria fight news against whoever. We'll see. Maybe Gaethje, maybe Patty, maybe Arman. That's kind of what I'm hoping for that December card. But we shall see. Definitely a lot of moving parts at 155. One complaint that I would have for that division is there's a lot of guys like Dan Hooker, like Arman Saryukian, like Patty Pimblett, like Justin Gaethje. There's a lot of contenders at that weight class that are probably one fight away or one win away from a title, potentially. But there's just not a lot of movement at that weight class. I don't know exactly why. Maybe they're all trying to push for a title shot in the next fight. As at this point, maybe they see that there's no clear contender. I think it should be Arman, but maybe in their minds, I think that, but I would like to see a little bit more movement in that weight class for sure, to find a real contender for Ilia, if it is not Arman. Next Monday, Universe again in my country. Vacation is already over. Damn, yeah, that sucks. How was the summer though overall? Yeah, we are getting into that time. Yeah, just around me. I mean, I'm personally done with school, but around me, around this time as well, school starts. And yeah, it sucks. But hopefully you enjoyed your summer. But yeah. But yeah. But yeah. Vacation's already over. By the way, chat, is the live stream fine? Kind of looks like it's lagging at my end, but I don't know if it's messed up on your guys' end. Isn't Jen silence over? Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But that's good. At least you enjoyed it. And going into school year, what can you do? I guess. But yeah, which one of these new fight announcements are you boys most excited about? Islam JDM, Prates versus Leon, or another fight that was announced? Personally, I'm most excited for Islam versus JDM. I think that fight's really good. I know on paper a lot of people are expecting Islam just to take down JDM and submit him, or at the very least win. But I think Islam could be in store for a really difficult fight. JDM is going to be kind of the first guy that is going to be bigger than Islam going into the fight. His takedown defense has proven to be pretty good in his last fight versus Bilal. His boxing, I believe, is certainly better than Islam. And he has pretty good power as well. Not one-shot knockout power, but he has pretty good power overall when he puts punches together in combination. So I think it could actually be a pretty difficult fight for Islam. And as I said, I'm predicting that JDM is actually going to win the fight, but we'll see. I think on the scorecards. I think on the betting markets, Islam is a significant favorite over JDM at this point, like minus 200 range, I believe. To be honest, I think Islam is bigger. You might be right. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Islam Makhachev. Let's see. So Islam's 5'10". This is Jack Della. All right, yeah, Islam's 5'10", Jack Della's 5'11". Obviously, it's not all based on height, of course. Jack Dell's a little bit taller, but I guess the main point that I was trying to say is a lot of times when Islam is going into these fights, he's usually bigger than his opponents, and even if Islam is slightly bigger than JDM, it's going to be very close, and they're essentially the same size. If not, JDM may even be a little bit bigger. So that's kind of my point, because usually when Islam goes into fights, he has the range advantage. He's just bigger than his opponents, so he'll probably be stronger than them. But moving up a weight class here, and with JDM being a pretty solid size for 170, I do think that could potentially play a factor in this fight. So we'll see. Islam says he walks around at 190. Yeah, I don't dispute that in the slightest. It is ridiculous that he was able to cut down to 155. He cut a lot of weight, and I think we saw that in his last fight against Moicano. We really did see that in that fight, I thought, where his striking just didn't really look good. He didn't really look that great in that fight, even though he got the finish relatively early. He kind of just looked off a little bit, and I think it's in part because of that ridiculous weight cut. Yeah, I don't doubt it at all that he walks around at 190. It's a really, really tough cut for him down to 155 when he used to do it. So it makes sense that he's moving up to 170 now. And I always thought that Islam was probably a 170 pounder out there, just, cutting a ridiculous amount of weight, moving down to 155. But yeah, I think he's probably more at his natural weight at this point. Especially, as you said, he walks around at 190. I don't know if he's going to look to put on additional weight or he's just going to stay at 190. But yeah, either way, just a ridiculous weight cut that Islam used to do. I think walking around at 190, actually, I don't even know, but I think even walking around at 190 is a pretty solidly sized 170 pounder, I would assume. I mean, obviously, there's definitely some guys at that weight class that cut more weight than just 20 pounds, but that's probably a pretty solid size for that division. I mean, just, off the top of my head, a guy like Michael Morales probably cuts like 30 plus pounds. I would assume he's huge for the weight class. And obviously, Kamaru Usman. Well, Usman actually doesn't cut that much weight from what I've heard, but there's definitely other guys at the weight class that cut a lot of weight. But yeah, that's a story with Islam. Let's see. We got anything new, fellas? Let's see. A little bit of a slow news week. I know we just got the announcements yesterday, but unfortunately, we don't have any card this weekend. So kind of is what it is. But outside of this this one little week where we don't have a fight, and I believe there's one more time where we don't have a fight for a week. Outside of that, every week is going to be pretty good. So I'm excited about it. I definitely think it's going to be a really, really good fall. And I talked about this before, but usually going into the next year, January, February, March, usually that time is not great for the UFC. They don't put on great cards or anything like that. But because the UFC is signing with Paramount, obviously starting next year in January, I do think we're going to be seeing a lot of good cards. So I think for the next maybe year, 6 months, however long it is, maybe forever, I think we're in store for a lot of really good cards. And the beginning part of this year was terrible, if I'm going to be honest. A lot of Apex cards and a lot of cards that just were not good. But I think going into the latter half of the year, starting now, we're kind of in a good place, I think. Morales versus Prates would be amazing. Yeah, that would be really, really fun. That'd be really good. Both of these guys probably cut a decent amount of weight. I think Morales cuts a lot more weight, actually. But that'd be a great fight. Both of these guys have insanely good power, also have shown really good chins. So down the line, that's a fight I would really want to see. Personally, I completely agree with you. But at this point, I think they're probably going in the direction where if they were going to fight each other, it's going to be for the belt. Because for Prates, his next fight is already against Leon Edwards. If Prates beats Leon, I do think his next fight will be for the title. And then for Michael Morales, obviously he doesn't have a fight booked yet, but I'm assuming they're going to book him up against a Sean Brady or somebody ahead of him in the rankings. And if he wins that fight, his next fight will probably be for the title. I think both of these guys have a real chance to be a champion. I think for Michael Morales, I talked about this a few times. I think it's almost inevitable that he's going to be a champion before his career is all said and done. He's just too big for the weight class. He's shown a great ability to stop takedowns, get right back up after he is taken down. And on the feet, he's just too powerful. He's relatively technical for sure. But the biggest part about his striking game is he's just longer and hits harder than everybody else and can take a shot really well. So his physicality is just insane. And I talked about this a lot. Physicality is super important. And the fact that Morales is just so much bigger and more physical than everybody at that weight class is such a big advantage. So I think he'll be a champion before it's all said and done. And for Prates, I could see so as well. Do you watch the Contender Series? I do. I do. Yeah. We did a couple of watch alongs on stream for the Contender Series. As I said, anybody who's joining in a little bit later at this point, we will be doing a watch along this upcoming Tuesday for the Dana White Contender Series. So join if you guys are interested. But yeah, I do watch a Contender Series. It is pretty good. There usually are, some good finishes and some good fights. Of course, it is hit or miss, I guess. But for the most part, these guys really have to go for it on these shows if they want to get a contract. So because of that, you do kind of see, more fun fights, I guess. So overall, I would say it's a good product. Hooker versus Rufy is also a great fight. Yeah, that also is a great fight. If Rufy beats BSD, I agree. Yeah, that would be a really fun fight to put together. I know Dan Hooker is wanting to fight on an MSG card. He's talked about it a couple times. He doesn't have a fight booked yet. Unfortunately, I kind of feel like a lot of the guys around him are kind of just waiting. Arman Sarukian seems like he's waiting a little bit. Max Holloway has to wait till next year, he said, as I believe he has a hand injury. Charles Oliveira is already booked. Justin Gaethje seems to be waiting for a title. Paddy Pimblett may also be waiting. I don't know if he would accept a fight against Dan Hooker. Maybe he will. But yeah, ahead of Dan Hooker, it seems like a lot of the guys are kind of just either booked for a fight or kind of waiting around. So if Hoofy or Rufy, whatever, beats BSD, I could definitely see that him matched up against Dan Hooker, and it'd be a great fight. And honestly, if BSD beats Hoofy, maybe you could do BSD versus Dan Hooker. I think either one of those fights will be really fun. Both of the guys, BSD and Rufy, are both known to be very fun fighters and very action-packed fighters. So either one of those guys, I think, would be a really fun fight against Dan Hooker. But we shall see, and we'll see how much damage they take. That's also a big factor. Welterweight is so stacked they can all be champions. Yeah, Morales, Prates, Shavkat, Gary, Makhachev, JD. It's insane. It is insane how many good fighters they have at the weight class. Yeah, I mean, all those guys I think are legitimate championship caliber. Morales, as I said before, I think he will be a champion before it's all said and done. Prates, I think, has a real chance to be a champion. He's championship level, I believe. Shavkat definitely is championship caliber level. Ian Gary is an interesting one, but I actually think Ian Gary is a significantly better fighter than people give him credit for. He doesn't always fight the most excitingly, but if you look what he's able to do for the most part to Prates, the fifth round wasn't great for him, but for the most part, he was dominating Prates, and I think Prates is a great fighter. And even against Shavkat, he had a lot of success in that fight. What he does really well, it's not always the most fun to watch, but what he does really well is he does a great job at nullifying his opponent's best weapons. He kind of makes it a boring fight, yes, a lot of the times. I thought the Prates fight wasn't boring, but for the most part, he does kind of turn it into a boring fight. But at the same time, you do have to give him credit. He's a great fighter. He's an elite fighter. And he's going up against these elite guys, and he's kind of nullifying what they do well and kind of fighting at his own pace in his own game. So he's a really good fighter. Obviously, Islam Makhachev is certainly championship caliber. JDM, obviously, is already the champ. Usman, I think he probably is as well. At this point, he's a little bit older, but still, I think he is championship caliber. Buckley, I don't think so. That's the only one I would say no to. And Brady, I also kind of don't think so. I think both of those guys probably won't be a champion, but the rest of them, I think, have a real chance to become one. Who do you think? Who have these guys in the intro? Well, obviously, JDM's already the champ. So, but outside of him, Morales. If I had to pick one guy, Morales is that one guy that I always lean towards. I talk about this all the time. Like, physicality is so important. Of course, you have to be skilled, which Morales is, but on top of that, he's just so physical. So because of that, I think he's a really difficult matchup for a lot of guys. I mean, just looking at the rankings and some of the guys you just mentioned, imagine Morales for Sean Brady. I honestly think that's a nightmare matchup for Sean Brady. Brady is great once he's able to get a takedown and once he's able to get on top. And if he got that position on Morales, he'll have a lot of success. But the thing about Morales is he has shown really good takedown defense for one. And for two, once he does get taken down, he gets right back up. So imagine a world where Sean Brady is stuck on the feet against Morales. It'll be an absolute nightmare for Brady. Brady doesn't have a great chin. His striking is okay. It's gotten better, but still, it wouldn't really be a match for Morales. The power difference is ridiculous. The chin difference is ridiculous. And I honestly think Morales is like a nightmare matchup for Brady. So I think he beats him. Do I think he beats Bilal? Yeah, I do. I do. I think he'll be able to stop takedowns or get right back up after he gets taken down. And once again, on the feet, he's just way better. And I think he lands a big shot, knocks Bilal out. For Shavkat, honestly, I think the same thing as well. Although Shavkat is a more dangerous fight for Morales, I think I think Morales honestly beats Shavkat. Leon's already fighting, but I think Morales would certainly beat Leon. Usman, I think he beats him. Gary actually might be a tough fight for Morales, to be honest. But a lot of those other guys that I mentioned, I think Morales beats. So yeah. John, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. But yeah, overall though, the welterweight division is ridiculously stacked. There's a lot of like legitimate championship contenders at that weight class. Only 2 Americans signed up until now. Both did amazing. Yeah. It is unfortunate. 2 American signings from. You mean from this season, or you mean in general? What do you mean? Only 2 signings. You're talking about like Sean O'Malley, or are you talking about like recently? How do you think Gary versus Fluffy at middleweight goes? It honestly, it could be a tough. It probably would be a tough fight for Gary. As I said, he does a really good job at game planning going into the fight and kind of taking away what his opponents do really well. But I think what Ian would probably do well is kind of do the a pull away counter right hand, kind of what Conor McGregor used to do with the left hand back in the day. I think he would do that a lot against Fluffy, and I think he would have a lot of success with it. The only problem is Ian Gary just doesn't hit that hard, and especially moving up to middleweight, I think it would his power would be even worse at that weight class. But yeah, I think Fluffy would probably win. I talk about this in a lot of my videos. Definitely true from Rob. True for to an extent against with Colby back in the day when he was in his prime, and probably the same would be true at this point with Fluffy. You kind of got to knock this guy out in the first 2 rounds. If you're not able to, it's going to be very difficult to beat this guy. And for Ian Gary, as I said, he doesn't really have that much power, and especially moving up weight class. So I think he'd probably start to tire out, and I think he'd probably lose via decision or maybe a late submission or something like that. But I think it would be Fluffy's fight to lose. From this season, one was trash talking heavyweight of fighting about. Yeah, I saw Hoyt or whatever. Hoyt. Yeah, it was kind of a little cringy, his post-fight press conference, whatever. He's kind of trying to be Colby or whoever. But yeah, I didn't watch the fight. Actually wasn't here for it. I was on vacation for it, so I didn't watch it. But yeah, I heard his opponent wasn't that good, so I don't really know how much that means. And the other American broke his leg. Yeah, as I said, I wasn't really even watching the Contender Series, so at least the last few weeks. So I didn't see it, but yeah, unfortunate. UFC Vancouver is also amazing card. Let's go. Yeah, the Vancouver card's looking pretty good. It's definitely looking really good with Fluffy and De Ritter being added to the main event. That's a really, really good main event. Honestly, a great fight. Then also you have Chito Vera and Eamon Sahabi, which is a pretty good fight. Mike Malott, Kevin Holland is honestly a pretty good fight as well. Bruno Silva and Hung Sung Park, honestly, is a pretty good fight. Danny Barlow's on the card. He's usually pretty fun. Charles Jourdain is usually pretty fun. Drew Dober is usually pretty fun. There's a lot of really good fights on this card. And as I said, the top of the ticket, that the main event is a really, really good fight. Definitely number one contender type fight with RDR and Hernandez and Fluffy. But yeah, it's definitely a good card. And as I said, going into the latter half of this year, into the fall, we have a lot of these cards, which are really good in arenas that are really good cards from top to bottom, or even some of these pay-per-views look to be really good as well. So definitely a good card in Vancouver and good cards in general going into the latter half of the year. Back in the day, 2017, the UFC came to the Netherlands. Yeah, I could see that. If RDR does become champ, I could see that. I think he has a real chance to beat Fluffy with his step-in knee. And Fluffy has shown a propensity to get hurt to the body, actually, in his last 2 fights. Or not his last 2 fights, not against Roman, but the 2 fights previous to that. He got hurt to the body, and because RDR has such a great knee to the body. That could be a real factor for him, and maybe you could find a first or second round finish based upon that. We'll see how the fight plays out. But if he does beat Fluffy, then he's almost definitely going to get a title shot in his next fight. And who knows, RDR versus Hamzat? I mean, who knows? Maybe RDR could figure it out. I would definitely lean towards Hamzat winning that fight, but maybe RDR can figure it out. And if he does become champion, who knows? It definitely could go back to the Netherlands. So yeah, it's always cool to see, the UFC get champions from different countries and go back or go for the first time to certain countries. It's always pretty cool. Usually when the UFC goes to places that they don't go to often, usually the crowds are really, really good. So I'm assuming the crowd in the Netherlands would be really good if the UFC ever went back there. So it'd be pretty cool. And if RDR was champ, it'd be a great reason to go back. So I guess we'll see what happens with RDR's next fight and with his career in general. He's kind of does it in a weird way, but he's been really successful. He has honestly been really successful. On the feet, his step and knee is really effective. We've seen it in a lot of his fights. And on the ground, he's legitimately very good. With his ground and pound, with his jiu-jitsu, with his ability to move and progress in positions, I should say. There is a lot to like about RDR, and also he's huge for the weight class. He's absolutely huge, which is also something that helps out a lot. So a lot of success from RDR for sure. Why do you think they're stacking October so much? Well, in part, the reason why there's 2 pay-per-view cards in October is because in September there's not a pay-per-view card. I talked about this a couple times. They were supposed to be, the UFC Noche card was supposed to be a pay-per-view card, but I think I could be wrong, but I think in part because of the fact that Dana White is promoting the Canelo versus Crawford fight. I think the UFC decided to make it into a fight night card for UFC Noche, and because of that, there's no pay-per-view card in September, so they're just kind of moving that card over to October. So we have 2 pay-per-views in October, and then and because in October they always go back to Abu Dhabi, usually those cards are pretty stacked, so I think that's why we're seeing a really good card there. And even at the beginning of October in Vegas, it's also a really good card. So definitely a lot of really good fights in October. October should be a really good month for UFC fans, and 2 pay-per-views, and what is it, 2 fight nights, or is it just 1 fight night that month? Yeah, it's 2 fight nights. Yeah, it's the Oliveira and Fiziev fight night on October 11th as well. So yeah, that month is going to be great. It's going to be really good for UFC fans. I already told my friends we'll go to already Friday. Well, it's already good if it's in Australia. Let's go, bro. Yeah, it's fire. Yeah, as I said, I mean, he's 1 fight away. If he could figure it out, and if he could beat Fluffy, he'll get a title shot in his next fight, probably against Hamzat. So he's close. He definitely is pretty close. Just 1 fight away. So it could certainly happen. What do you think? I play poker. A lot of Saturdays I play poker. Sometimes I'll play some sports, basketball, football, whatever. Mainly basketball. But yeah, either some sort of sport or poker. I'm not. I usually don't go out. It's not really my thing. Kind of just more into sports, into working out, even poker, stuff like that. That's usually what I do on my Saturday nights. Maybe it'd be boring to some other people, but that's kind of what I do. Kind of have a good group of friends that all kind of enjoy the same things, and we're either playing sports or playing poker, watching UFC fights on Saturdays, or whatever. If there's some other event on, we'll have it up on the background. Like I know this weekend, tomorrow, I believe it's the Salt Poppy fight versus Tony Ferguson fight. It's a ridiculous fight, but I am probably going to watch it. Or actually, I'm definitely going to watch it. I don't know what time it is. I know it's in the UK, so probably going to be earlier on in the day. But yeah, I'll probably be watching that. Do you ever listen to any live stream? No, not really. Honestly, I don't really watch live streams that much in general. Even MMA ones, I don't really listen to that much. Sometimes I listen to an MMA guru live stream, just to for whatever reason. But for the most part, I don't really listen to live streams that much. I prefer to watch just videos. But yeah, I don't really listen to anything else than MMA live streams. If I am going to watch a live stream, it is going to be an MMA live stream. But yeah. Also, they did release the UFC Rio poster. I think it looks pretty good. What do you guys think of the poster? Here it is. I think it looks pretty cool. Um, I'm actually moving soon, so the setup's going to change in a month from now. But I am, I'm going to have a new space, different basement, I guess. And right now, I have a couple of posters up in my basement now, where all the boys come over, watch fights and whatever. But I was thinking about getting some additional posters to add to the new place. So this Brazil, if the Brazil card turns out to be pretty good, maybe I'll get this Brazil Fight Night poster. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. What else we got here? Chat. What else we got? What else? Charles Oliveira is my favorite fighter. Poster looks really good. Yeah, yeah. Well, Oliveira is definitely one of my favorite fighters as well. I mean, his his title run, his title reign was incredible. I mean, he won a million fights in a row. What was it, like 10 or 11? Something ridiculous. He was knocking everybody out. He was having a lot of trouble in a lot of those fights, but he just figured it out. He was finishing everybody, finishing Dustin Poirier, finishing Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira is one of my favorite fights ever. It was such an action-packed first round. It was incredible. And, going into the fight with the whole weight miss thing, and everybody was saying, Charles is going to get knocked out here versus Gaethje. And the fact that he had so much trouble, he got knocked down twice or three times in that first round. And then he came back, knocked Gaethje down, and submitted him. Such a great moment. Such a great moment. And that was personally my favorite fight. One of my favorite fights ever. Maybe my favorite fight ever, actually. It was such a action-packed fight. I know it was short, but it was so fun. And Charles's title reign was amazing. I also love Charles. I didn't give it to believe, but I said someone. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. I mean, Tom is certainly a really good grappler. I mean, he's shown it in a lot of his fights. But the thing is, some of the guys that he's fighting at this point are nowhere near some of the guys that DC was fighting and some of the guys he was grappling against and had success against. So yeah, I think it's pretty ridiculous. Now, if there's a really good contender, like for example, if Tom goes out there and submits Jailton Almeida, that would be a really good feather in his cap. I mean, Jailton is a legitimate, really good grappler. So that would definitely help his case. And if he had a couple more wins like that, or, just wrestled guys like that and had success, then maybe it's a different story. But at this point, I mean, he definitely has really good grappling, but he hasn't shown it all that much. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's kind of ridiculous to say that he has better grappling than Prime DC. It's a little bit early for that. Not saying that it can't be true eventually, but at this point, it's just too early. We haven't really seen it. The Jones hate is insane. I was that Jones purposely comes. That's insane. Yeah. I mean, listen, I talked about this a lot. John's not a great person. I feel like you always have to say that whenever saying something good about John Jones. But I mean, let's be honest. The guy's really good. He's been able to be a champion and be on the top for so long. In my opinion, he's the GOAT. If you think so or not, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Everybody has different criteria and whatever about who they think is the GOAT. But yeah, it is pretty crazy. Some of the things people say just to give hate to John Jones, like saying DC is essentially saying he's not an amazing grappler. I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. But what are you going to do? His backstory is also so special. Talking about Charles, yeah, his backstory is great. And seeing him become champion, and it's just an amazing story overall. Charles Oliveira is obviously a Hall of Famer, no question, first ballot Hall of Famer. Going into his fight against Fiziev, I do think I think he's going to win. I would favor him in that fight. He is coming back a little bit too soon for my liking after taking that knockout versus Topuria. But still, I think stylistically it's a good fight for Charles. I don't think Fiziev, hits that hard. So I think that's another thing that's going for Charles. I think he wins the fight going back to Rio. And yeah, if he is able to win that fight, we'll see where he goes from there. In terms of Charles becoming a champion again, it's unfortunate. I don't really think it's going to happen. He's still going to be at the top of the division for sure. And I guess he isn't that far off from a title shot. Maybe if he won one or two more fights. But in my opinion, I think at this point, he's probably not going to fight for a title, or at the very least become a champion that soon, or at all, I guess. But in this fight specifically against Fiziev, as I said, I think Charles probably wins. Joshua, what's going on, brother? Let's go. Let's go. Yep, I'm back officially. Back to my normal schedule. As I said, weekdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and weekends, Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So, yeah, we're back to our normal schedule. We're back to streaming normally. Definitely excited to do so. Happy to get on a consistent schedule, talk with you boys again. I definitely miss doing these live streams. They've been really fun. Just talking to you boys about certain fights has definitely been something that I've been missing. So getting back to it is great. And this weekend we are doing, we're going to get back to the watch-alongs again. This upcoming Tuesday, we do have the Dana White Contender Series, so we will be doing a watch-along for that. And also for the Paris card, we're also going to be doing a watch-along for that card. It is earlier on in the day. And I know it's not this weekend, it's next weekend, but still we'll be doing a watch along for that card as well. So a couple things to look forward to. Usually the watch alongs are fun, but yeah, we're back officially, fellas. We are back officially. What was I gonna do? We got the dirty boxing thing going on right now. That's crazy. That's fucking nuts, bro. I'll show it. There's a fighter who got knocked out and he just attacked security after. That's insane. I'll show it. There's not gonna be any sound in this. Fuck. You boys see my screen? Yeah, so he got knocked out here. And then afterwards, when his opponent was doing an interview with John Anik's brother, you'll see right here. Just attacks a security guard. What the fuck? That's interesting. But all right, I didn't even know that dirty boxing was going on right now. Is it a good card? Is anybody watching in chat? Is there any PFL on today? I don't think so. I know PFL is usually on Fridays, but whenever it's on, I never know. Haven't been keeping tabs. It's crazy. Yeah, they are dominating. Their grappling is great, and even their striking. I mean, Tapore's striking is ridiculously good as well. So yeah, they are dominating, and I love the little rivalry with Georgia and Dagestan going on. It's actually pretty fun. But yeah, overall, these guys are definitely dominating the UFC. And yeah, they're doing it by great wrestling, and some of these guys also have really good striking as well, putting it all together, making it difficult for other guys. It's kind of crazy, though, at this point, that there's not really any American champions and not really any American fighters that are legitimate contenders in my eyes. Sean Brady, I guess, would be one of those guys. But outside of him, there's really not too many examples of it. I made a video talking about it more in depth. It's basically because of the fighter pay, I believe, in part is a huge reason for why we're not seeing some of these American fighters become champs, or some of these American fighters join the UFC and be very high-level fighters, I guess. But yeah, it is kind of crazy to see that there's no American champions. In the women's weight class, we have one, but in the men's weight class, we don't have any. And as I said, there's no one that's an obvious next guy that could be a champion. Sean Brady, I guess, would be the one guy. But in my personal opinion, I think Sean Brady is not going to become a champion. His wrestling is very good. His takedowns are not amazing, if I'm being honest. They're solid. But once he gets on top, that's where he's really elite. The problem, though, is on the feet, his striking is just okay. His chin's not really good. And if you could stop takedowns for Sean Brady, I think you'll probably beat him. And I think there's a lot of guys at his weight class that could stop takedowns. So I personally think Sean Brady probably wouldn't become a champion, although he does do some things pretty well. But yeah, outside of him, there's nobody else really. All these countries don't like Russia, and they also don't like each other. Yeah. Yeah. It definitely does bring a really good rivalry from the UFC's perspective, and yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are not just fighters that are good, they're also fighters that are pretty entertaining. I mean, Ilya Taporia is ridiculously entertaining. I know Merab doesn't get a lot of finishes, although he did finish Sean O'Malley in his last fight. But I would personally say that Merab is also a really fun fighter. So a lot of these guys are kind of have a good balance of being very dominant, obviously, but also being very entertaining as well. So there's definitely a good rivalry going on over there between some of these guys, and yeah, they're definitely dominating the sport to an extent for sure. But yeah, this picture's ridiculous. There's a picture going around of Gautier next to Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland's fat as a house, and Gautier is like ripped, juiced to the gills. Maybe probably not juiced, but it's just ridiculously ripped. It's pretty funny that they're in the same weight class. Yeah, he's another guy. I talked about him a lot. I made a video about him already, talking about Gautier. I think he's probably going to be a really good fighter, definitely a top 5 contender. I think he's shown a lot of really good skills. His striking looks really good. He's obviously very explosive. He hits really hard, and he also has shown a patience in there. He hasn't fought the best level of competition yet, obviously, although Ozzy Diaz is a little bit of a step up in competition compared to who he's been fighting. But I think he has a really bright future. There's a lot of good things ahead of him, I believe, and I think after he beats Ozzy Diaz, I do think he'll beat him. And after he does beat him, I think the UFC may look to push him a little bit faster at that point. Maybe give him a ranked fight in his next fight after that. And if he passes that test, UFC is just gonna, push him, and maybe he'll get a title shot within the next 2 years if everything goes well for him. He's a really exciting fighter and he's shown a lot of good things. But yeah, PFL sign former. Okay. Are you boys watching the Misfits card tomorrow? And do you guys know what time it is going to be at? I'm probably going to watch it, but it is kind of a spectacle. Tony Ferguson versus Salt Poppy. Hopefully Tony doesn't get knocked out, but I have a feeling he probably will. Yeah, main card starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Unbelievable. DC, that picture was Strickland with them. Man, yeah. I think it's real that he's forced to train women's MMA. I don't know why he would be forced to. If that's like a punishment from him punching some guy, and like I don't know, that doesn't make any sense why he would have to do that. But yeah, I don't know if it's a joke or not, but I think it's real. That was pretty funny. Did you see Aljo? What's his name? Yeah. It's pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy that Ortega not only ate it, but he kind of just moved forward like nothing happened. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's because Aljo doesn't hit hard." I think it's because Ortega's chin is just ridiculously good. We've seen it a bunch in the past, his chin being amazing, and I think this is just another example of that. The Aljamain Sterling performance overall, I thought was pretty good. I mean, he definitely dominated. It wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but he dominated Brian Ortega. He kind of outsmarted him, like I thought going into the fight, but a lot more striking than I thought it would be. And that spinning elbow was nice. Yeah, it honestly seemed like the spinning elbow hurt Aljo more than it did Ortega. Ortega kind of just walked through it and didn't really seem like he was too fazed by it, which is kind of funny. But yeah, what's next for Aljamain Sterling? What do you boys think? I know he wants a title shot versus Volkanovski. It's not going to happen if we're being honest. The UFC kind of hates Aljo, and also that performance wasn't the most exciting. So I think he's probably going to have to fight one more time. A fight that I personally want to see. Maybe the UFC doesn't think it would make sense because they already fought before. But I really think Aljo versus Evloev makes a lot of sense. The winner of that fight would get a title shot after that. I think it makes all the sense in the world, but I know they already fought. And yeah, maybe they could put other fights together, I guess. What are some American prospects at the moment? Honestly, I don't even know. I mean, maybe there's some obvious ones that I can't think of, but I don't even know. I can't think of anybody. I don't know. Let me know, boys, in chat. I'm blanking here. But yeah, there's the American talent in MMA is probably as low as it's ever been, or as bad as it's ever been. There's not too many guys, honestly. But yeah, Aljo versus Yair. Yeah, that fight could make sense as well. I heard some rumors that Yair was supposed to fight Arnold Allen. I don't know if that's not happening anymore. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Aljo versus Yair does make sense. Aljo would be fighting up in the rankings at number 3 against Yair. It's just the only problem if you do a fight like that, because is this like this is kind of how I see the featherweight division going. I think Volkanovski, I mean, obviously he's going to fight Lerone Murphy next. Let's say Lerone Murphy wins that fight. If Lerone Murphy wins that fight, then I think the next title shot would be Gene Silva. I think Gene Silva beats Diego Lopez, who's currently number 2. And after that win, I think he'll get a title shot in his next fight. So then it'll be Lerone Murphy versus Gene Silva. Then let's say Gene Silva wins that fight. Then after that, if you do Aljamain Sterling versus Yair Rodriguez, Aljo would have a real case to get the title shot next. But then if you do Movsar versus whoever, Arnold Allen, let's say, or whoever, it doesn't really matter. Well, they already fought, actually. Movsar versus whoever, and Movsar wins his next fight, then you kind of have two guys that the UFC doesn't really like. And they both have a case to deserve the title shot. So I guess I'm kind of saying this in a really confusing way. I guess my point is, I think with one more win, Mozart and Aljamain Sterling would both deserve a title shot. So might as well just put them up against each other. And whoever wins that fight, it would be very obvious who should get the next title shot at that point. And that's kind of why I think it should happen. But if you do Aljo versus Yair, it definitely makes a lot of sense as well. Only one I can think of is Malcolm Wellmaker. Yeah, that's one I was thinking of as well. He looks pretty good, but I mean, obviously, we haven't seen him go up against real competition yet, so we'll see how he looks once they raise the competition. But yeah, outside of him, I really can't think of anybody else. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody obvious, but I really can't think of anybody else at this point. It is kind of unfortunate, but it just is what it is. I guess the UFC is more of a international sport at this point. A lot of Americans are just deciding to play football or deciding to do something else, or just not training MMA in general, or just not good enough to make it to the UFC. But yeah, that's kind of the state of not the heavyweight division. That's kind of the state of American MMA at this point. But yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right. You're actually completely right. Peyton Talbot is actually probably the best guy. I would say. I know he had a pretty bad fight versus Barcelos, but in his next fight, he kind of put all that to bed, all his grappling deficiencies. So I actually think Peyton Talbot is really good. Yeah, I completely forgot about him. He's really good. His striking is great. He's very physical. Once again, talking about physicality, but it's true. He's very physical. He hits really hard and can take a shot really well. His striking is really good. He showed off in his last fight that he has a really good ability to stop takedowns or roll around on the ground, get back up, scramble effectively. So Peyton Talbot is a really good prospect. I think he's a real guy that could be a champion at his weight class. And yeah, he's good. He's very good. I guess he's probably the only guy that I think could legitimately become a champion at this point. That's from America. But yeah. And in the rankings, there are only Fluffy, Brady, maybe Batista, possibly a champion. Yeah. You're right. I personally, as I said before, I personally don't think Brady will become a champ. Could Fluffy? Yeah, Fluffy could. If Fluffy wins against RDR, and then you have Fluffy versus Hamzat, that would be a really interesting fight. I would favor Hamzat to win it, but that'd be really interesting. If Fluffy can just survive the first 2 rounds, going into round 3, 4, 5, I think he's really going to start to pull away. And I think he'd probably win the fight if it gets into those later rounds or latter half of the fight. So it's an interesting one between Fluffy and Hamzat. But yeah, maybe Batista as well. Batista's a good fighter. I know a lot of people don't like Batista because of some of his more recent performances, most importantly, the Aldo fight. But he is pretty good. He does do a lot of things really well out there. And he has a fight against Umar. If he does beat Umar, they'll probably get a title shot in his next fight. Merab is like ridiculously active, so he'll probably fight him in no time. So yeah. But yeah, I guess those are 3 names that could potentially become a champion. But out of those 3 guys, I would say the most likely to become a champion is probably Fluffy out of those 3 names. But yeah, not too many guys. Not too many guys, to be honest. But yeah. What else we got? What the fuck? But yeah. What do you boys? By the way, what do you boys think of the heavyweight division? Do you think we're ever going to get a guy? Well, of course, eventually. But do you think as of now, there's anybody currently signed by the UFC that could legitimately contend with Tom Aspinall, or do you think Tom would just beat everybody at that weight class? I said it a bunch of times. I think Tom was just going to beat everybody. Um, it is heavyweight, and anybody can land one big shot. Tom does have a little bit of an issue when he's backing out. He kind of leaves his chin up in the air a little bit. So I guess that is a little bit of an issue that Tom has. But in terms of the technicals, in terms of his striking, in terms of his grappling, I just think he's better than everybody else. Um, but yeah, what do you boys think though? Think there's anybody? You think Derek Lewis is going to knock out Tom Aspinall? That'd be so funny. But that'd be fun. I guess he would be an American champion if that theoretically happened. But we'll see. I actually think that that's pretty good timing. Yeah, I mean, there's two guys in the heavyweight division that I don't think will beat Tom, but I think have a chance. And I think those two guys are probably Almeida and Derek Lewis. Those are the two guys, kind of for different reasons. Almeida, he's a really good grappler. I think he could grapple Tom Aspinall potentially, and maybe he could win like that. Derek Lewis, I think he's worse everywhere, but he just hits so hard. He can land one big shot, big right hand, big left hook, and he could definitely knock Tom Aspinall out. He can knock out a horse by how hard he hits. So I think he'll probably – I mean, I think Tom will probably win. I would say like 95% chance. But you always have to give – or maybe even less than that. But you always have to give a chance to Derek Lewis, whoever he fights, because he hits so hard. So, yeah, those are the two guys that I would say have a chance. But even then, I think Tom still beats both of them. Aside from getting caught, I don't think. I agree. That I 100% agree upon. I just think he's better than everybody else. And, yeah, anybody can catch him, I guess, especially Derek Lewis. But yeah, outside of him getting caught, yeah, I think he's stylistically or skill-wise, he's better than everybody in one area of the game. Either he's a better grappler than his opponent, or he's a better striker, or he's better at both. So he's a really skilled heavyweight for sure. People will sometimes say shots, but to be honest, I think his power is overrated. You're saying Pavlovich's power is overrated. I probably would agree. I think he hits really hard for sure. I mean, the way he was able to put out Derek Lewis, and the way he was able to put out what's his face, Tai Tuivasa. I mean, for as good as Tai or as bad as Tai is, his chin is really good. So as quickly as he was able to put him out, like he definitely does have really good power for sure, but he's not really like. He can have one-shot knockout power. Of course he could. But really how he gets his finishes is he kind of gets into brawls and puts punches together in combination. And as of late, when he's kind of fighting like a singular shot kind of fight, they've all went to decision, as we've seen in his last 2 or 3 fights. So, yeah, I agree with you. I do think Pavlovich's power is probably a little bit overrated. But yeah, I mean, not to say that he doesn't have power, because he does have a lot of power, but usually how he gets his finishes, as I said, is putting punches together in combination, as opposed to just one big shot like a Derek Lewis could do. But with that being said, I mean, he did land a big shot on Tom, and he kind of ate it pretty easily. So Tom definitely has a good chin. For sure he has a good chin. But because he leaves his chin so high up in the air, there definitely are questions. If Derek Lewis catches him or something like that, he'll probably get knocked out. Lewis is cooked off his back, and the old man is cooked off his feet. Yeah. I agree. I think that's probably true for everybody, or most guys, or not probably everybody, at the heavyweight division. Tom will be better than his opponent in one area of the game, whether he's a better striker or whether he's a better grappler or both. He's better than somebody in essentially against everybody else in the heavyweight division. And for Derek Lewis and Almeida, I agree completely. That, yeah, if he fights Derek Lewis, he'll probably just take him down and submit him or land ground and pound shots or whatever. And against Jonathan Almeida, he'll just stop takedowns and keep the fight on the feet, land big shots, and find a finish. So there's always going to be an area where Tom's better than his opponent. He's just very skilled for the heavyweight division. But with that being said, if I had to pick somebody, Derek Lewis and Almeida are probably the two guys that I would pick if I had to pick somebody. But as I said, I definitely heavily favor Tom to beat both of them. Like Pavlovich hit Waldo with a clean shot and didn't go out. Yeah. Waldo has a good chin as well. I will say I don't like Waldo that much. I think, or not that I don't like him, but I just don't think he's very good. And I think we kind of saw that in the fight versus Pavlovich. But one thing I will say about him is he has shown a really good chin in a lot of his fights. But yeah, you are right. I mean, Pavlovich was landing some clean shots, uh, and it wasn't really doing anything, honestly, to Waldo. He's just eating the shots and continuing to fight. I don't think there was any sequences in the fight, honestly, where he got hurt or even resembled to get hurt at all. So yeah, I would agree with you overall, though. Sergey's power is probably a little bit overrated, for sure. But it's kind of weird to see Sergey kind of changing his style. He was having so much success with that brawling style. And maybe guys are just not obliging him as much as they were in the past. But it is kind of weird to see him go from a brawling type fighter when he's putting punches together in combination, having a lot of success with that, finding a lot of early finishes with that sort of style. And now he's kind of just throwing singular punches and he's not nearly as effective. Yeah, he beat Waldo Cortez Acosta, who I don't think is really that good. And yeah, he beat Rosenstrike in a really, really boring fight. But outside of those fights, like he's not going to have a lot of success, I believe, with this sort of new style that Sergey's utilizing. Maybe he's doing that in part because he got knocked out by Tom Aspinall and it's kind of in the back of his head. He doesn't want to take big shots at this point. That certainly could be a part of it. But for the most part, Sergey has shown a really good chin. Outside of that Tom fight, he's taken a lot of big shots from Curtis Blades, from other guys, and he hasn't really got hurt even. So if I were Sergey, I'd probably get back to his style where he had the most success, kind of that brawling style. But if he's going to continue to fight like this, kind of fight like singular shot kind of fights and kind of just, be a little bit patient out there, I don't think he's going to look nearly as good as he did when he was kind of brawling with guys. Because the thing about Sergey is he wasn't just brawling with guys. Of course he was, but he had advantages in that brawl. Like his length was he's probably longer than all of his opponents, for one. And for two, he is pretty technical and he is really fast and he does have really good boxing. So he was he was able to do a really good job at landing big shots in those brawls and finishing his opponents pretty quickly. So I think he has advantages fighting that sort of style. I think he probably should fight that sort of style, but it seems like he's kind of going in a different direction at this point. But yeah, that's kind of the state of the heavyweight division. Yeah, someone brought this up. It's kind of also shows the state of women's MMA. The fact that Mackenzie Dern is fighting for a title. She's 2-2 in her last 4 fights, and she got knocked out badly by Jessica Andrade not too long ago. It is kind of crazy she's getting a title shot, but I guess that's the state of of women's MMA. I don't know. It is crazy. And as I said before, the super fight that they're putting together in Whaley versus Shevchenko, I mean, it's definitely an interesting fight. I mean, obviously I'm going to watch it, but it's not something that gets me too excited. I mean, I guess one fight, Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison, maybe that's exciting. But for the most part, a lot of these women's MMA fights are just not that exciting to me personally. But did you say this before I said this? That's hilarious timing. If you did. I wonder why they're giving that. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see the weight class. Is there anybody else that deserves it more? So Dern is number 5 currently. Could you have given it to Lemos? No. Could you give it to Jan? Probably no. Suarez, definitely no. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of makes sense. They gave it to Dern. I mean, it doesn't. She's 2-2 in her last 2 fights, but some of these other chicks or girls don't really make sense either. So I don't know. Maybe they just went for Dern because she's the biggest name out of all these other fighters. I don't know. Yeah, it is weird. But yeah, the state of women's MMA. Who do you think is the second best heavyweight in the UFC? I think it's Volkov. Yeah, I could see that. Volkov has definitely done a really good job at improving his game. He's a really good fighter. His striking is really good. His grappling has even gotten better for sure. So I think he's a really good fighter. I want to say Almeida. I am a little bit higher in Almeida than maybe some other guys. And we have Volkov and Almeida fighting. So I guess we'll see who's a better heavyweight in that fight. But yeah, I think at this point I want to say Almeida, if I had to say. But Volkov is a really good fighter as well. As I said, he's a really good striker. Does a good job at fighting at his own pace and his own style, and his grappling is even getting better as well. Just the thing about Almeida is I think he has the physical tools to be great. He's freakishly strong, as I touched upon before in the stream. Curtis Blades is like 300 pounds, and Almeida was literally tossing him around. I mean, he's really good. And on the ground, he has shown the Derek Lewis fight was weird, but outside of that, he has shown a really good ability to submit guys as well. And a lot of these guys at the heavyweight division kind of just don't know what jiu-jitsu is. So the fact that Almeida is faster, honestly, even stronger and more skilled, on the ground, at least in terms of his jiu-jitsu, than most of these guys, probably all these guys at the heavyweight division, I think is a real advantage for him. And I just think he has the tools to be really good. So I think I'll say Almeida, but I think it's pretty close between Volkov and Almeida. And I guess we'll get it. Oh, that was a joke. They're giving it circus. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's probably why. But in terms of like everybody ahead of her, it's not like somebody like obviously deserves it more than her. Mackenzie Dern's number 5 in the rankings. Everybody ahead of her either just lost or just doesn't deserve it. So I mean, there's actually a legitimate argument that she deserves it more than any of those other fighters. But yeah, you're probably right. She has over 1 million followers. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's the reason. Obviously, she's getting it. But it's kind of like two reasons baked into one, I guess. But it definitely doesn't hurt that she's very popular, I guess. Uh, but yeah, it's such a weird title fight to see. But whatever. And I guess we'll see Whaley and Shevchenko in New York. So that fight hopefully will be pretty good. True, she's coming off a win. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of all you need to get a title shot. At that point, I mean that weight class, the strawweight division is just so fucking bad, if we're being honest. So just coming off a win and being in the top 5 or top 6 is probably all you need to get a title shot. But yeah, unbelievable, chat. Man, just looking at her striking is just like insane. I think someone asked us in chat earlier, or maybe the other day, or whatever it was, why people prefer men's MMA or why people don't like women's MMA. I guess this is kind of the reason. I mean, when you look at Mackenzie Dern fighting for a title, like you think if anybody fought like that in men's MMA, they'd be fighting for a title. I mean, it just shows how far ahead men's MMA is in terms of skill than women's MMA. But also on top of that, they're a lot more powerful. There's a lot more knockouts. We kind of like MMA, at least for me. I'm probably speaking for most MMA fans because of the unpredictable or the unexpected. Some guy could be losing the whole fight. Leon Edwards just losing the whole fight versus Usman. All of a sudden he comes, he finds a head kick, gets a finish in the 5th round. Crazy moments like that is a huge reason for why a lot of us are MMA fans. But when you look at women's MMA, for one, it's like obviously a lot less skilled, lower skill level, but also on top of that, you don't really have the power and you don't really have the opportunity for some of these girls to find these crazy comeback victories. Of course, it has happened, but it's not nearly as common as it could be in men's MMA. And not just talking about title fights, just fights in general. So I mean, I think it probably goes without saying, but that's a reason why most people prefer men's MMA and why they don't really love watching women's MMA. And I think the fact that Mackenzie Dern's fighting for a title, nothing against Mackenzie Dern, but the fact that she is fighting for a title here is kind of proof of that, I guess. That's crazy. This is insane. This is an insane ticket. Somebody has Mackenzie Dern to be champion by the end of the year. $143 to win 50,000. That's an insane ticket. She might not be champion, but she's fighting for the belt, so we'll see. We shall see. I think yeah, probably. I mean, listen, Shevchenko is really good. Obviously, she's getting a little bit older, but she is good. Whaley is like legitimately entertaining. She moves very, very well. She hits really hard. And some of her more recent fights for grappling has honestly looked pretty good as well. So Whaley's actually a good fight, or obviously a good fighter, but also an actually entertaining fighter. And Shevchenko is as well. Her last fight wasn't, but for the most part, she is. So yeah, it probably will be a fun fight. You're probably right. So I will be looking forward to an extent for that fight. And I think that card in general is going to be really good with the main event, Islam versus JDM. So yeah, probably be a pretty good co-main and main for that card. I'm going to see if I can go to that card. I'll see how expensive it is. I'm sure it's going to be really expensive. Going into it, I was saying if Pantoja and Van was the co-main event of that card, I would definitely go. I mean, obviously, we already knew JDM Islam would be the main. Um, but if that was the co-main event, I would definitely find a way to go. At this point, it still seems to be a really good card, especially with Prates on the card versus Leon. That's a really good fight as well. Really good fight as well, actually. So I'm gonna try to go to the card. Hopefully, I'll be able to. But I'm assuming it's gonna be really expensive. But we'll see. We'll see. One thing that I wanted to say though is I think people don't realize how big JDM versus Islam is. There's obviously excitement, and maybe on Fight Week there'll be more excitement for it. But I think because we really wanted Islam versus Ilya, it's like whatever. But this fight is like legitimately very, very exciting. Islam's trying to be a double champion. JDM has proven to be a really good fighter on a really long win streak. So this is a great fight, and I know a lot of people are expecting Islam just to win, but I think he could be in store for a tough night potentially. How did Rafam? Just nuts. Yeah, yeah, it's insane. It's insane. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it's insane because that card just gets worse. The main event is really good, but we were always saying that Noche card wasn't good outside of the main event. The only silver lining, I guess, was Rojas was on the card. But now that Rob Font pulled out, he's not even on the card anymore. Is Kelvin Gastelum on the card? I heard that he was supposed to be, but I'm not seeing it on the official list here. So I don't know if that was maybe fake news or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe they're still going to add fights to that card. I don't know. This is pretty rough, man. This card. I don't even know who would be on the main card out of some of these fighters. But I know you said you were going to it, I think. So listen, I talked about this a lot, but a lot of times when you see fights on paper that don't look amazing, they could turn out to be fun on the fight, on the night of. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these Apex cards turn out to be pretty fun. So it doesn't mean that this is going to be a bad card. It's just on paper. There's not like a lot of big names, to say the least. Maybe they'll add some more fights to the card, but we'll see. Gaslam versus okay, so he is on the card. I mean, he's kind of an exciting fighter. Maybe that'd be a fun fight. But yeah. Gaslam is kind of an exciting fighter, I guess. So maybe it's something to look forward to. It's a funny fight, actually. But yeah, hopefully the card turns out to be good. They got to add fights to this card, right? I mean, how many fights are on this card? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I guess 10 with the Gaslam fight. So if there's only 10 fights, they got to add at least 1 or 2 more fights to the card, I would assume. And hopefully they add legitimate main card fights to the card. So I don't know. Maybe they'll add some more fights to the card and it'll be a little bit better. And you'll be able to go to a little bit of a better fight card. But, for the card, really the main attraction is the main event anyway. So hopefully that fight turns out to be really good. I think it probably will be. I don't see how that fight turns out to be boring. But I also didn't see how Hamzat versus DDP could have been boring, and it was. So I guess never say never. But I'm assuming that fight is probably going to be really good. Between Silva and Diego Lopez. Each one of them have never had a boring fight in their lives. So we'll see. Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira's answer banger. Yeah, okay. That was one that was added recently. That actually is a really good fight. I agree with you. Hernandez is coming off a big win in his last one. Not too long ago, actually. Pretty quick turnaround for Hernandez, but he didn't really take any damage in that one. So good on him for making the quick turnaround. And Diego Ferreira obviously was supposed to fight Bobby Green, who pulled out. So yeah, this is good. Both of these fighters are pretty good, very action-packed fighters. Hernandez has really good power, and Diego Ferreira is also a really good fighter. I know he's a little bit older and he doesn't really get that much credit, but he is actually a really good fighter. His striking's good, his grappling's good. So yeah, that probably is a banger, to be honest. But yeah, it should be good. MB, what's going on, brother? Welcome back. Thank you. Welcome back as well to the stream. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, we're back to our normal, normally scheduled program every day during the week, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and on Sundays, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back to watch-alongs this Tuesday. we will be doing a watch-along for the Contender Series. On Saturday of next week, we'll be doing a watch-along for UFC Paris. So if you guys are interested, be sure to join the stream for that. So yeah, just excited to get back to the normal live streams, normal schedule, and talking about MMA and just getting back to this YouTube channel. It's been fun. Hernandez is from San Antonio, I believe. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Why he wanted to make the quick turnaround. But yeah, in general, I mean, he didn't even take that much damage anyway in that fight. So good addition for sure to the card. Um, but yeah, I mean, listen, in terms of like the name value, Hernandez versus Fajeda is not the huge name value, but I think it's going to be a good fight. Even Gaslam versus Stolflutz, um, I think that's actually going to be a pretty fun fight as well. So you could see some bangers for sure on the card, and yeah, I think most likely this card will outperform the name value on the card. When the name value is just so low, how can it be worse than what it's what it's perceiving to be? I guess. So I think it'll probably be fine. I think it'll probably be pretty good, or I don't know, pretty good, but at least solid. Um, so we'll see. And maybe they'll add one more fight to the card. We'll see. And if they do, I'm sure it'll be a pretty fun one. If they do any like last second additions, they're usually pretty fun fights. So um, what else we got here? We got Dirty Box. Who's the main event of Dirty Boxing tonight? By the way, boys, do any boys know? I've seen a lot of highlights from this. Seems like it's a pretty good card so far. Um, oh, that was sick. This is sick, bro. I don't know these guys, but this fight is sick. Um, so it looks to be a pretty good event here for Dirty Boxing. Let's see. We got don't tell me. Am I crashing out? Computer crashing out here? No, we're good. All right. Let's see. Let's see who's on this card. Oh, Rosenstrike's the main event. Look at that. That's at 9:45. Oh, okay. So the main card didn't even start yet. Oh, there's a lot of UFC fighters. Landon Quinones from the Ultimate Fighter. Mike Breeden. Lamar Brown. Phil Hawes is on. Oh, bro, I gotta watch this. Phil Hawes is on this thing. Oh man, I hope he doesn't get knocked out. I actually have a video coming out not too soon or not too long from now about Phil Hawes. I think he's like one of the bigger what ifs in UFC history. Actually, I think he's that good. Just his chin was so bad. But he's fighting. Did he fight already? I don't even know. I think he didn't, but I would like to watch that. Hector Lombard, holy shit. Brian Battles in the card. I did see that. But yeah, the fact that Brian Battle just made weight so easily, it seemed, in this fight when he couldn't make weight just not too long ago, it's kind of ridiculous. But whatever. He's on the card, and as I said before, Rosenstrike's the main event. Actually, pretty good. Pretty good. I would like to watch this. Should we pivot into a watch along for Dirty Boxing? Could I even watch this thing? Let's go, John. Let's see. Well, it'll be tough. It's I'm assuming you have to pay for it, right? Dirty Boxing, I would assume, which I'm not gonna do. Yeah, the main card starts at 9:45. All right, I'll probably just watch it later. Yeah. Who do you guys think is going to win in the Umar versus Batista fight? What do you guys think about that one? I think Umar probably gets it done, but people are overlooking Batista a little bit. I know he had the whole Aldo performance, but he is actually pretty good. He is actually a really good fighter. He does a lot of good things. His grappling's really good. His striking is pretty good as well. He does a lot of things pretty well, actually. So I think Umar's probably going to edge it out, but I think it's going to be a close fight. Probably a decision victory for Umar. Relatively close fight. 29-28 sort of fight, I think. Yeah. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Umar 2.0 is coming, I guess. Yeah, I mean, listen, he did have a really close fight versus Merab for sure. And if he beats Batista, maybe he'll fight for a belt again, or maybe he'll need one more win after that. But I do think Umar is certainly one of the better fighters at the weight class, and I do think he's going to fight Batista once more. So yeah, I probably we're probably going to see Umar versus Merab once again. And as I said, he was relatively close to beating Merab the first time, but in my opinion, it probably plays out a similar way to what it did the first time, where where Umar probably starts to gas out, maybe has success early, but starts to gas out starting in round 3. Merab starts to pull away, and maybe he can even find a finish this time around. Who knows? Um, but yeah. It looks like it's streamed on YouTube for free. Oh, if that's the case, that's fire. Unless those are prelims, you have to pay for the main card. Yeah, actually, a lot of times that's how they do it. I wish I could find more information on this, but I don't know where the fuck to look. Dirty boxing. Events. 30 bucks. I think it's 3, right? Yeah. No, I get tickets. YouTube. Oh yeah, it is free. Oh, there you go. Free across all platforms. Oh, that's fire. That's the way to do it, by the way. Make it free. Merab's cardio is out of this world. Yeah, he's literally non-human with his cardio. It's honestly like insane, his level of cardio. And the Weasel, I'll give him credit. The Weasel talk about this, but he's so right. You can have success against Merab in the first 2 rounds. If you have any shot at beating him, you need to finish him in the first 2 rounds. But once you get to round 3, the fight's over. Once you get to round 3, all these guys start to gas out. Umar gassed out, obviously, but even besides Umar, guys who have been known to have good cardio, they all gas out starting in round 3. Round 4 and 5, it's all Merab's world. It's just crazy how good his cardio is, the pace that he's able to keep. Shooting in for 1 million takedowns. If you look back at his Peter Yan fight, he literally shot for 1 million takedowns. Successful or not, it doesn't really matter. The fact that he was able to shoot in for so many takedowns, it's just insane. And after the fight, he wasn't even tired. His cardio was just insane. It's insane. I mean, even when you look back at it, that video, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but when he was in Vegas and this like really long pool and he jumped into the pool from one end, going underwater to the other end, the fact that he was able to hold his breath for that long, his cardio is insane. It's non-human. That's the only way to describe it. I wonder how Islam will do in a stepping up weight class. I personally think that JDM is going to win the fight. Personally, I just think he'll be able to stop takedowns from Islam, and on the feet, I just think he has such a big advantage. In short, I mean, I made a video talking about it in depth. If you're interested, be sure to check it out. But yeah, the cliff notes of it is I just think he'll be able to stop takedowns, and on the feet, I think he has a big advantage there. But we'll see. I mean, Islam is a better grappler, wrestler than Bilal is, so maybe he'll have more success in it. Well, we'll see. Definitely a really fun fight, and I talked about this before, but I think most people would be a lot more excited about this fight if we never had the Islam versus Ilya fight possibility. This fight as a whole is such an amazing fight, but I think the excitement for it isn't really as high as it should be. Maybe on Fight Week it could be different, but at this point, I don't think people are that excited about Islam versus JDM, but they should be. It's a great fight. Do you think Merab's on some opportunities? Yeah, I almost 100% sure. I think he's on something. His cardio, as I said, literally non-human. I mean, I'm sure his cardio is great in general, but I think it's elevated to the next level based on some sort of PEDs. I'd be very surprised if he was on nothing. Obviously, he doesn't hit the hardest or anything like that, but his cardio is insane. So I think he's probably on something that, takes him to the next level. But with that being said, I think his cardio is always going to be amazing. But yeah, because I can't see how you can have that cardio never tire. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I don't know how to say it. I mean, there's been a lot of cardio guys in the past, like Fluffy has great cardio. Even Colby back in the day had great cardio. But Merab he's at a different level. The pace that this guy's pushing is insane. Colby was pushing a high pace back in the day when he was in his prime and he was having a lot of success gassing out a lot of fighters, like when he gassed that Masvidal badly. So yeah, I mean, obviously that's great cardio, but I don't think that's anywhere near the level of Merab. Merab is shooting in so many. It's literally Colby on steroids. Merab is Colby on steroids. That's literally what he is. So it is crazy to see the level of cardio he has, and I think based upon that, this guy is very, very difficult to beat. I don't really know if anybody beats him. I know some people think that Corey could beat him. I personally don't. Really don't see a world where Corey Sandhagen beats Merab. But if Merab beats Corey, I don't know who's going to beat this guy. He already beat Peter Yan. Maybe Yan will look a little bit better in the rematch, but even then, I think Merab probably beats him again. Song Yadong, I think Merab probably beats him. Sean O'Malley already beat him twice. Umar, he already beat him. Maybe the rematch will look closer. We'll see. But I think Merab probably beats him again in a similar fashion. And then after that, Batista, I think Merab probably beats Batista. And Vinicius Oliveira is one guy that I think could make it interesting. But for the most part, I think Merab beats a lot of these guys based on his cardio, based on his grappling. So, yeah. It's I think it's tough. It's just really tough. As I said, the only way you can possibly beat Merab is you need to beat him, knock him out, or submit him. It's going to be really hard to submit him, but at the very least, you have to knock him out or submit him in the first 2 rounds. If you're not able to do that, I think it's essentially over. But yeah, that's what it is. Merab's cardio is just insane. What can I say? By the way, do any of you boys actually think Corey's going to beat Merab? I mean, listen, Corey is a really good fighter. He's worked on his grappling. But I don't know. I just don't think he's going to submit Merab. I think it would be very difficult to submit a guy of the caliber of wrestler and grappler that Merab is. He's also training with Aljamain Sterling every day, essentially. And Aljamain has great jiu-jitsu and has definitely threatened his fair share of chokes on Merab. So I think Merab's probably ready for all the submission attempts from Corey. And as I said, in terms of the gas tank, in terms of the wrestling, Merab just has him covered. And on the feet, Corey definitely is a better striker. But I don't think Merab is really going to let him get going. Similar thing to what he did against Peter Yan, where Peter Yan was just never able to get going. I think we're going to see a very similar thing in this fight against Corey. Corey's only chances of flying knee. I completely agree. That's literally his only chance. On the ground, he's not going to submit Merab. Highly doubt that. And on the feet, he's not going to land some sort of head kick because Merab's not going to give him the opportunity to throw one. He's going to be right in his face the whole time, pushing Corey alongside the cage, shooting in for a million takedowns. So, yeah, I think a flying knee, that's something that he could do. He has shown an ability to do so in the past, knock guys out. But outside of that, I really don't think he has much of a chance. Also, he doesn't hit that hard. He is good boxing, but he doesn't hit that hard. So I think it's a difficult fight stylistically. I think Corey has a good chance. Good chance of everyone. I think Merab takes over like he usually does. Yeah, I mean, I guess compared to some other guys, I guess I would agree. But I kind of agree with John's point that, to me personally, the only way I see Corey winning is via a flying knee. But in terms of even if he keeps the fight on the feet somehow, in terms of the boxing ring, he just doesn't hit hard enough. And I think before he really is able to get going, putting together combinations, stuff like that, I think Merab's just going to shoot him for a takedown, similar to what he did against Peter Yan. And as the fight does progress, even though Corey has shown good cardio, I mean, Merab's on another level. So as the fight progresses, round 3, round 4, round 5, I think Corey's probably going to start to gas out a little bit. But we'll see. There's a video of Merab grappling with an attack. Yeah, one of the best. Yeah, I agree. He's just too high level of grappler. Obviously, that's a great example, as you mentioned. But even besides that, just training with Aljamain Sterling, I think people don't realize how good of a submission threat Aljamain Sterling is. I actually think Aljo is probably a difficult fight for Merab, actually. But training with a guy like that every single day, it's going to train you to be able to avoid a lot of these submissions on top of his abilities on the ground. So I don't think Corey's submitting him. I know that's a little bit of a theme going into the fight. Some guys think that. I would be very surprised if it happens. Clip this, I guess. But I'd be very surprised if he submits him. But the scrambles in the first round are going to be interesting. Yeah, I think Corey could have success in the first 2 rounds for sure. A lot of guys do have success against Merab actually in the first 2 rounds. But as the fight progresses, Merab's going to take over. And even if Corey is having success, I don't think he's going to be able to find a finish. He just doesn't hit hard. Corey, what he showed in his Umar fight is he has shown a really good ability to scramble effectively. And if he was able to scramble against Umar effectively as he was, stopping a lot of takedowns or getting right back up, I think he probably will be able to do the same against Merab early. But as I said, I just don't think on the feet he's going to be able to make Merab pay with a big right hand that knocks Merab out or hurts Merab or something like that. So Yeah. I don't get the hate on Santa again. Yeah, I mean, he is a little bit of a nerd, I feel like, but not because of his fighting style. His fighting style is definitely fun. He had a little bit of a boring performance against Cheeto, I believe it was, where he just took him down a million times. But that was because he was hurt in that fight. For the most part, Corey is a fun fighter. His striking is really fun. When you watch back his fight against Peter Yan, that was one of the more exciting fights ever. Honestly, that was a great fight. His striking is great. Even his grappling, when he does grapple, it's pretty fun. He doesn't look to just stay on top of you. He looks to advance in position, land ground and pound shots, find submissions. So Corey is definitely a much more complete fighter than he used to be, and he's also a fun fighter for sure. So yeah, I think he's good, and I think he's fun. Yeah, I agree on that one. Same you mentioned with Jan, he just couldn't get going. Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the thing. That's a big reason for why I thought Sean O'Malley. I didn't think Sean would beat Merab, but I thought he had one of the better chances against Merab, just because he does have one-shot KO power, and that's really the only way I think you could beat Merab. You can't be a guy that puts punches together in combination like Peter Yan does, or even like Corey Sandhagen does to an extent. Rob's just going to shoot in a million takedowns and not allow you to get going. You have to be a guy that has one-shot KO power, and I thought Sean kind of had that. So I thought he had somewhat of a chance against Merab, although I thought Merab would have won the fight, which he did pretty easily, actually. But yeah, for Corey, for Peter Yan, even for Umar, they don't really have that ability. And that's why one of the other guys that I think has one-shot KO power is Vinicius Oliveira. So that's a big reason for why I think Vinicius has a chance against Merab, and also Vinicius has shown amazing cardio. Not Merab's cardio, but has shown really good cardio. So that's why I think he has a chance. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Merab shoots for sloppy takedowns sometimes, so Corey could potentially name. Yeah, yeah. It would have to be in the first 2 rounds, I think. But yeah, he definitely is a little bit sloppy on some of his takedowns for sure. But as I said, if I had to put a percentage on who I think is going to win, I probably would say like a 90% chance Merab wins the fight. Outside of a flying knee, I really don't see any other way he wins. Maybe I'm underrating Corey or overrating Merab, glazing him, whatever. But I just think stylistically it's a tough fight for Corey. Not saying Corey can't beat anybody else. He's a really good fighter, very well-rounded. And I think if he fought Yan again, I think it's a close fight. If he fought Umar again, I think it's a close fight. Song Yadong, he already beat Song, but if they fought again, he probably win again. Figueiredo, he beat. Like, Corey's a legitimate top 5 guy at the bantamweight division. He does a lot of things really well. But I just think Merab's a tough fight for him stylistically, and honestly, as I said, for anybody stylistically. But yeah, it's kind of the whole Merab dilemma. He's good. He's good. Do you guys think Merab's exciting? I personally think he's exciting. He doesn't get a lot of finishes, but I think his style of just gassing everybody out is really exciting, and he's constant pace, constant pressure, constant action, shooting in for a million takedowns. And even if his opponents get right back up, that's kind of what he wants. So, obviously there have been some boring fights for sure, but for the most part, I think he's an exciting fighter. Who's O'Malley's next fight? That's I don't know, man. He's actually in a really weird spot because for whatever reason, he's a #1 contender, which I don't think he should be. But a lot of these guys he already lost to, or I guess already fought, or they already have a fight booked. He's kind of in a weird spot. Like, Umar already has a fight booked. I thought Sean versus Umar could have made sense, but they decided to do Umar versus Batista. So that's off the table. Jan's already going to fight for the title in his next fight. He's not fighting Sean next. I highly doubt that. Sandhagen is already fighting for the title. If Sandhagen loses, maybe you could do Sean O'Malley versus Sandhagen. Everybody wanted that for a while, and I think it makes sense if Corey loses. So I guess that could be an option. You could, at this point, do O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Song doesn't have a fight booked, I don't believe. So you could do O'Malley versus Song, and if Song beats O'Malley, that's another contender, fresh contender from Rob to fight. So at this point, because everybody else is booked, that's probably what I would say. O'Malley versus Song probably would be his next fight, or would make the most sense. But if O'Malley is waiting a while and Corey loses his next fight, then I think the fight that I would be most excited about would be O'Malley versus Corey. So that's what I would say for O'Malley next. But he is in a weird spot because even if he wins his next fight, his next 2 fights, maybe even his next 3 fights, it's going to be really difficult for him to get a title shot as long as Merab is champion. And as I said, I think Merab is probably going to be champion for a while. Um, Even though there's a lot of good contenders like Umar, even Batista, and Vinicius Oliveira on the come up, I still think Merab is going to be a champion for a while. His style is just so difficult to figure out, and especially because it's at a lower weight class and there's not as many guys that have one-shot KO power, it just makes Merab's style even that much more effective. So that's kind of how I see that weight class going. But yeah. Also, one other thing that I want to say about Merab is he's super. I guess I'm glazing him a little bit too much, but he's good. He's good. He's also super active. So yeah. What else we got? You think Teal beats Rockhold tomorrow? Yeah, I do. I talked about this before. I think Teal's actually doing a really smart thing by he kind of carved out a really good role for himself. He's actually a really good boxer, like legitimately, and he's kind of fighting guys that are worse than him and making millions of dollars for it. So good for Darren Till. I do think he's probably going to beat Luke Rockhold tomorrow. He's just like actually a really good striker. He'll probably knock him out too. So that's how I see the fight going. But yeah, the card's interesting to say the least. Tony Ferguson is fighting Salt Poppy. I'm definitely going to watch the fight or watch the card, especially considering there's no UFC. But it's weird. It's definitely like a spectacle kind of card, but there's actually some fights that I'm kind of interested in. Dylan Dennis is on the card fighting in MMA against some random plumber guy. The guy's literally known to be a plumber, or his nickname is the plumber, I think. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, there's some fights in the card that I have some interest in. But yeah. I saw the press conference between for that card, and it's pretty heated. So I guess they don't like each other, Till and Rockhold, so it should be good. Misfits MMA, what the fuck? Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just Misfits is literally just like a spectacle kind of thing, organization, and yeah, they're doing an MMA fight. I believe it's going to be in a ring. I mean, it has to be. They're not going to bring in an octagon mid fight or mid card, so I guess it's going to be in a ring. And yeah, it's their first MMA fight with Dylan Dennis and literal plumber. We'll see how it goes. I'm assuming Dylan Dennis is just going to submit this guy in the first round, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. It's kind of funny. Misfits is going the MMA route at this point. Maybe they'll carve out a little bit of a role for themselves. So we'll see. We shall see. I'm kind of hoping the fights are fun. I'm like weirdly excited for the card for whatever reason. I mean, Tony's probably going to lose and maybe get finished, so that won't be fun, but I'm like weirdly excited for it. I guess probably because I haven't watched fights in a while. I did kind of watch the China card, but I kind of saw just the tail end, the last 3 fights. It was super early. The timing of it was weird. And then obviously this weekend we have no fights, so I guess I'm just excited for fights. I will cry if Tony Ferguson gets KO'd. It's a ridiculous timeline that we're in, that Salt Poppy's fighting Tony Ferguson. Salt Poppy is fighting Tony Ferguson. I mean, I just know him from Misfits. I don't know him previous, but he's just like a TikToker, I believe. So it would be crazy if that's our reality, but it could happen. I mean, I've seen some of Salt Poppy's fights. He's not like an amazing boxer, obviously. I mean, but for the level of Misfits boxing, he's a pretty good boxer. So it could happen. I don't know. It's what kind of world are we in that this fight is even happening? But Tony wants to continue fighting, and Misfits gave him an opportunity against Salt Poppy. So I don't know. That's what we got. That's what we got. But yeah, I'll probably check out this dirty boxing thing. The card looks pretty good, and I saw some of the highlights of some of the fights that already happened. They look pretty good. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But yeah, fellas, I think if you guys have any more questions, definitely feel free to let me know in chat. But if not, I think I may hop off. We've been streaming for almost 2 hours at this point, like an hour and 50 minutes. It's been a great stream. Happy to be back, as I said. Um, it's been a while since I was streaming back at the normal setup. So happy to be back. Streams will be back in normal fashion, normal schedule. Tuesday we'll be doing a watch along for the Contender Series. Next Saturday we'll be doing a watch along for UFC Paris. So be on the lookout for those if you guys are interested. Thanks everybody for joining the stream and asking questions in chat. I appreciate it. But until next time, until Sunday, I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out, boys.